Y'all grab your tea, because this one feels less like gossip and more like a full-blown earthquake. After years of silence, Kirk Frost's name is rumbling back through the headlines. And this time, Jasmine Washington is the one shaking the ground. It started quietly. A few whispers online. A few, "Did y'all see that?" Comments under old reunion clips. But then came that single post. No caption, no context. Just one sentence. "Let's tell the truth this time." Within minutes, the internet froze. People thought the Frost drama was finished, neatly wrapped up in the archives of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. But Jasmine wasn't done. She'd watched, waited, and collected. Now she's stepping forward with messages, receipts, and a calm tone that feels more dangerous than shouting. And when Jasmine talks, the internet listens. Fans started pulling up old episodes, pausing scenes, matching timestamps, trying to figure out what was real and what was storyline. What came next wasn't just tea, it was a timeline reset. Because if what she says is true, it doesn't just rewrite Kirk's reputation. It changes what everyone thought they knew about that affair. And tonight, we're unpacking the entire chain reaction, from the first leaked screenshot to the final fallout that left even the cast speechless. This isn't a rumor recap. It's the aftershock of a truth bomb that's still shaking Atlanta. The first tremor hit late at night. A blurry screenshot, dim lighting, a cropped phone screen, and yet it was enough to stop scrolling. It looked like a DM exchange, initials barely visible, timestamps cropped, but one line stood out in clear focus. "You said we were done lying." That sentence spread faster than wildfire. Within hours, fan pages, gossip blogs, and TikTok commentators had it stitched, zoomed, and reposted with wild theories. Some said it was fake. Others swore the typing bubbles matched Kirk's old handle. A few sharp-eyed followers noticed the wallpaper. The same pattern seen months ago in one of Jasmine's stories. That tiny clue sent people digging through archives, frame by frame, building an entire digital case. Then came the hashtags. Frost Files, Receipt Season, Jasmine Speaks, each one louder than the last. It wasn't just messy, it was methodical. The post had no caption, no audio, no explanation, just silence. The kind that makes people listen harder. At first, the timeline went quiet. Fans waited for a denial, a clapback, something. But nothing came. No response from Kirk, no word from Rashida, not even a subtweet. That silence made it worse. It turned curiosity into obsession. By sunrise, gossip pages were running timeline breakdowns, influencers were analyzing fonts, and journalists were reaching out to both camps for statements. The energy felt electric, like everyone knew this was only the first domino. And when Jasmine finally broke her silence hours later, it wasn't through a publicist or a blog. She went live. No filter, no glam, just her phone camera, a steady tone, and a folder full of receipts. That's when the internet realized this wasn't a leak by accident. It was a controlled detonation, the start of a storm that would unravel everything the show had built around the Frost storyline. When Jasmine finally hit that Go Live button, it wasn't a glam moment. No lashes, no backdrop, no music. Just her sitting in a plain hoodie, a bun tied tight, and the kind of calm that only comes when someone's already cried everything out. The lighting was soft, the comments flooded fast, but her voice stayed steady. She didn't start with drama. She started with intention. "I'm not here to bash anyone," she said. "I'm here to correct the record." The chat exploded instantly. Hearts, shocked emojis. "Finally!" Messages racing past her screen. But Jasmine didn't read them. She had notes, screenshots, and a truth she'd rehearsed in her head for months. Her first few minutes felt almost rehearsed. The deep breaths, the controlled tone, the deliberate pauses between words. It wasn't rage. It was release. She said she'd been quiet for years, not because she was scared, but because people turned her pain into a storyline. "They edited my life into a villain arc," she said, "and I lived with that." Then she reached beside her and picked up a folder, paper edges marked with sticky notes, color-coded and organized. These, she said, are what y'all weren't supposed to see." The camera caught her flipping pages. Some viewers caught screenshots before she could even finish. They showed message logs, payment receipts, dates matching scenes from the show. Every click of paper sounded like a gavel. "You can't call it closure if the truth never came out," she continued. Her words were calm, but her delivery had the weight of finality. As the live went on, Jasmine addressed one timeline rumor at a time. She debunked the idea that she ambushed anyone, showed timestamps proving private communication continued long after the cameras stopped rolling, and described the emotional manipulation behind certain reality scenes. Her voice never cracked, but her hands trembled once when she read a message she'd written years ago. "I just want peace, not attention." The chat went silent for a moment, like everyone collectively exhaled. Then she looked straight into the lens. "If telling the truth makes me the villain again, fine. But I'm not carrying lies that don't belong to me anymore." That line hit like a mic drop. Thousands of viewers clipped it instantly. Captions reading, "Jasmine's Redemption Live." The comment section became its own show. Supporters flooding in, doubters demanding proof, and even verified accounts tuning in quietly. For nearly 40 minutes, Jasmine held control of a story that had controlled her for years. And when she ended it, she didn't say goodbye or promise more. She just whispered, "Now you know," and tapped the screen. The live ended, but the internet was just getting started. Within minutes of Jasmine's live ending, clips of her screenshots started circulating like wildfire. The clearest image showed a thread of DMs, one name blurred, the other marked with the initials KF, time-stamped at 2:14 a.m. The messages were polite at first. Him, "Can we talk like adults?" Her, "We tried that before. You only listen when it's quiet." It was simple, almost restrained, but the undertone spoke volumes. Each line painted a picture of two people bound by unfinished business and years of damage control. Then came a longer text, dated weeks before a reunion episode aired. Jasmine highlighted it during her live. "They told me to play along, to make it look like closure. But it's never been that." That message flipped the conversation. Suddenly, viewers weren't debating infidelity. They were questioning production ethics, editing choices, and who really wrote the narrative. Fans began comparing timestamps from the screenshots to specific scenes from Love and Hip Hop. A fan page even overlaid Jasmine's texts with clips of Kirk's televised apologies, and the timing didn't match. What the audience had seen as resolution might have been filmed after these private messages. Then there were the boundaries. Jasmine revealed a note where she'd told him, "Stop calling me when you're filming. I'm not your secret stress relief." That one line resonated across the comments. It wasn't bitter. It was final. Some texts showed compassion, others exhaustion. "I'm not trying to ruin you," one message read. "I just want my peace to be real." Her words carried a quiet maturity that no headline could twist. The leaks ended with one final screenshot, a reminder she sent him months later. Healing isn't revenge. It's distance. No more messages came after that. No replies. Just silence. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like closure written in plain text. By the next morning, another layer of the story dropped. And this time, it wasn't screenshots. It was audio. The clip was short, maybe 20 seconds, but it changed everything. A male voice, low and deliberate, saying, "We'll fix it in post. Just make sure she looks emotional enough." The voice wasn't directly named, but fans didn't need subtitles. The tone, the cadence, even the background hum of a production trailer. It matched scenes people had seen 100 times. The clip spread across Twitter in minutes. People started analyzing waveforms, matching syllables, comparing it to old behind-the-scenes videos. The internet became an investigative newsroom overnight. Then, like clockwork, a second leak surfaced, an email thread, supposedly between a PR rep and a network executive. It was redacted, names blurred, but key phrases stood out like neon signs. "Rehab ARC delivery due by end of quarter." Brand redemption narrative must stay intact. Contain Jasmine mention. Focus on couple recovery. Those few lines told a story bigger than gossip. They hinted at narrative engineering, at decisions made not by the people involved, but by teams trying to shape what viewers believed. Jasmine reposted the thread quietly. No caption, just a lock emoji. That single symbol said everything. Comment sections flooded with outrage. So this was never about love or healing. It was about ratings, one fan wrote. Others tagged the network, demanding transparency. The noise was so loud, producers had to disable comments on older clips. Analysts began calling it the Frost formula, the blending of private pain with public profit. What had once been seen as a dramatic storyline was now being exposed as an orchestrated performance. And behind all the digital chaos stood Jasmine, calm, silent, letting the receipts speak for themselves. For the first time, it wasn't her words people were debating. It was their own receipts. It was their own receipts. Days later, just when the buzz began to fade, Jasmine resurfaced. Not online, but in real life. A photo circulated, her outside a gated neighborhood, holding a small white envelope. According to a neighbor, she hand-delivered it. No cameras, no entourage, no statements, just quiet closure. Inside that envelope was a letter, an apology, handwritten, folded neatly, smudged with what looked like a tear mark. She didn't deny her mistakes. In fact, she owned every one of them. "I hurt people," the letter read. "Not because I didn't care, but because I was too lost to stop." It wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It was accountability. She admitted to playing a part in the confusion, to choosing silence when she should have spoken, to loving someone who belonged to someone else. "I don't expect peace from others," she wrote. "I'm learning to earn it from myself." Later that night, Jasmine went live again, but only for a few minutes. This time, she didn't speak much. She opened her notes app and scrolled through something she'd written privately months before. The screen glowed as she read, "People think healing is revenge, but sometimes it's just walking away with dignity. I don't need to be believed anymore. I just need to be free." Her tone wasn't defensive. It was final. That clip became one of the most shared videos of the week. Fans called it the apology live. Others said it was the moment she stopped being a storyline and became a person again. The apology wasn't for the cameras. It was for her own peace. And somehow, that made it hit even harder. Because in a world obsessed with spectacle, Jasmine's quiet truth became the loudest sound of all. As the final minutes of her live approached, Jasmine shifted her tone. The tears had dried. The folder was closed. And what came next wasn't anger. It was acceptance. "I'm not here to destroy anybody," she said softly. "I'm here to take accountability for my part in the mess." That line silenced the chat. Even the people who came expecting chaos found themselves listening differently. She didn't point fingers. She didn't curse names. She simply owned what was hers and released what wasn't. Then came the moment no one expected. Jasmine paused, took a breath, and said, "I want to thank Rashida. Not because she forgave me, but because she showed me what strength looks like when the world's watching." The tone wasn't flattery. It was genuine respect. Her words carried the weight of someone who finally understood the pain she helped cause. "I don't need an apology," she continued. "I don't even need conversation. What I need is absence. Sometimes peace isn't about being right. It's about being gone." The chat flooded with hearts, crying emojis, and quiet shock. People weren't expecting closure. Not like this. Then Jasmine looked straight into the camera and whispered, "I'm done explaining my truth to people who profit from my pain." With one final exhale, she tapped the screen. The live ended. No otro music. No goodbye. Just silence, and that silence felt like a full sentence. The moment Jasmine's live ended, the internet detonated. Within minutes, clips of her closing words flooded every platform. TikTok edits, Instagram reels, YouTube compilations. Each creator added their own captions. Accountability hits different. She finally spoke. Peace drama. Hashtags like Dr. Jasmine Speaks and Dr. Truth Live shot to the trending list before sunrise. Some praised her strength. Others dissected her motives. But no matter the take, everyone was talking. Fan pages began curating best moments from the live. The quote about absence, the line thanking Rashida, the quiet handshake when she turned off the camera. Even verified influencers started stitching the clips, calling it a masterclass in emotional maturity. Meanwhile, gossip blogs turned it into headlines. Jasmine Washington breaks her silence. Frost scandal timeline, what she revealed. Did production manipulate the storyline? By noon, the narrative had evolved from scandal to study. Twitter threads analyzed her tone, body language, and even the lighting of her live. Media commentators framed it as the intersection of reality TV and real healing. Behind the scenes, murmurs began to surface. A stylist hinted in a comment, that edit was never fair. A production assistant liked a few shady tweets. A PR insider allegedly DM'd a gossip page saying, it's deeper than what y'all saw on TV. And just like that, Jasmine's personal story became a cultural conversation. Podcasters called it the most authentic moment of the franchise. Comment sections turned into therapy sessions. Some defended Kirk. Others apologized to Jasmine publicly, admitting they judged too soon. Every frame of that live, every pause, sigh, and sentence was replayed, analyzed, and captioned into thousands of interpretations. But while the world debated what it meant, Jasmine stayed offline. No statements, no reposts, no reactions, because sometimes the loudest way to end a storm is to simply stop feeding it. By morning, the internet had completely reshaped the story. What began as gossip the night before had turned into a full-blown movement. Fans weren't arguing anymore. They were analyzing. Hashtags like Jasmine was right, the real timeline, and Frost truth dominated every feed. Old reunion clips resurfaced with side-by-side edits, comparing Jasmine's calm confessions to Kirk's defensive interviews. Every pause, glance, and contradiction was slowed down and stitched into new context. Wait, she said that same line 2 years ago. One fan tweeted, showing a clip from a reunion episode. Another replied, and they laughed at her. But now we know, the tone had shifted. The triangle that once painted Jasmine as reckless was now being reframed as engineered chaos, a storyline designed for ratings. People began questioning the entire season's authenticity. Think piece videos emerged overnight. YouTubers, culture critics, and even journalists dissected her live frame by frame. One viral caption read, "When a woman stops defending herself, the truth speaks louder." Within hours, thousands joined a Reddit thread mapping out the Frost affair timeline, color-coded posts showing which scenes were likely filmed after the fact. And just like that, the internet became the new editing room. Even fans who once sided with Rashida began expressing empathy for Jasmine. They didn't excuse her actions, but they understood the humanity behind them. "She didn't steal someone's man," one comment read. "She got edited into a villain." The narrative that had defined an entire reality franchise was collapsing, not because of PR, but because the audience had finally connected the dots themselves. Meanwhile, Kirk's pages grew quiet. His usual motivational posts stopped. The comments under his old videos filled with new context. This didn't age well. Now we see the manipulation. Jasmine told no lies. By midday, even mainstream outlets began reporting on the shift. What once felt like a scandal now looked like a reckoning. And as the memes, breakdowns, and remixes multiplied, one truth became clear. The audience wasn't laughing anymore. They were reevaluating the whole story. Just when it seemed the chaos might settle, a new wave hit. And this time, it came from inside the production team. An anonymous Reddit account posted a screenshot labeled Producer Transcript, Season 6 Pickup Notes. At first, it looked fake. But the formatting, timestamps, and language felt too real to ignore. The transcript outlined an edit meeting discussing how to protect the redemption arc and minimize audience sympathy for Jasmine. One line stood out in bold text. "Keep her emotional, not logical. We need Rashida to win this scene." That one sentence changed everything. It wasn't just a leak. It was confirmation that the narrative had been sculpted from the top down. Fans went wild. "They edited her healing into humiliation," one tweet read, racking up 500,000 likes. Journalists began contacting ex-producers for comment. No one responded, but silence spoke volumes. Then came the second blow, a photo. It showed Kirk and Jasmine at a dinner table months after the supposed final confrontation. The timestamp on the metadata? Weeks after the episode, claiming they hadn't spoken in over a year. The photo wasn't scandalous. No touch. No flirtation. Just two people in deep conversation, surrounded by empty glasses and a publicist seated nearby. But it was enough to prove what Jasmine had hinted all along. The timeline was rewritten to serve a story. Within hours. The photo flooded gossip blogs with headlines like, "Reality Rewind, What Really Happened After Filming?" And, was the Frost finale a fabrication? Even insiders started dropping cryptic comments. "Nothing on TV is real, only contracts are." For viewers, the illusion had shattered. The Frost saga was no longer entertainment, it was evidence. And as receipts turned to revelation, one thing became impossible to deny. This wasn't just Jasmine's story anymore. It was the industry's unmasking. While the internet burned, Rashida said nothing. No statements, no shade, no tears, just silence, sharp enough to cut through every rumor. Instead of addressing the chaos, she did what few expected. She posted a reel from her boutique, a new clothing drop, calm music, her signature smile. The caption? "Still working. Always have, always will." It wasn't denial, it was discipline. Fans instantly noticed that Kirk was missing from her tagged photos. Hours later, sleuths confirmed the unfollow. That single action set the tone louder than any live could. Within a day, supporters filled her comments. "Unfollow freedom." She's choosing herself this time. Soft life activated. Then came the videos. Neighbors spotted movers outside the Frost home. Cardboard boxes, folded racks, labeled bins. Quiet proof that Rashida wasn't just unfollowing digitally. She was physically stepping away. No speeches, no interviews, just movement. And that restraint made the internet scream louder on her behalf. Bloggers turned her silence into symbolism. One headline read, "Rashida teaches a masterclass in detachment." Meanwhile, her business pages thrived. Orders surged, PR brands reposted her looks, and longtime fans flooded comments with heart emojis and affirmations. It was clear, Rashida wasn't retreating. She was reclaiming. In a reality world built on confessionals, her refusal to perform emotion became its own narrative, one rooted in grace and self-preservation. By the week's end, she hadn't mentioned Kirk once. But her feed told the entire story. From boutique mirrors to quiet car selfies, every post radiated peace. No long captions. No closure threads. Just a woman reminding the world, silence can be the loudest answer, and whether intentional or instinctive, her stillness became the final punctuation to a decade-long storyline. Rashida wasn't fighting for clarity anymore. She was walking toward it. When the pressure reached its peak, Kirk finally broke his silence. He went live at midnight, face tight, tone defensive, surrounded by half-burnt candles and studio lights. The caption read, "Clearing the air." But the live did the opposite. He began by blaming editing, calling the leaks a smear campaign. Yet his delivery felt rehearsed. Every line echoing PR coaching. "No one's perfect," he said. "But y'all forget, TV isn't real life." Viewers flooded the chat with rolling eye emojis and timestamps from past episodes contradicting his claims. Comments scrolled faster than his eyes could track. Someone typed, "Then why did the dinner photo have a 2024 date?" Another added, "You said you hadn't spoken since 2022. So what's this? The live ended abruptly after 15 minutes, his face stiff, his phone buzzing mid-sentence. Within hours, gossip accounts clipped every second. Headlines popped. Kirk's cleanup live makes bigger mess. PR insiders whispered that the brand deals he bragged about were on pause. Meanwhile, Jasmine moved with a different energy. Measured, reflective, she didn't go live again. Instead, she posted a quiet carousel of screenshots, archived folders labeled Closure, Truth, and Peace. No captions, no tags, just muted tones and timestamps in the corner of each image. One slide showed her handwritten note from months prior, the same apology she once tried to deliver privately. Viewers zoomed in, reading faint words. "I'm sorry for the noise. I just wanted to be honest." That post hit harder than any speech. Across social media, creators analyzed the trio's saga like historians dissecting artifacts. Some called Jasmine courageous. Others still called her reckless. But all agreed, the transparency felt heavier than entertainment. Then, out of nowhere, Rashida returned with one sentence. A black and white post on her story read, "Peace isn't paid with attention. It's earned with distance. No tags, no music." But that message became gospel overnight. Fans turned it into merch quotes, motivational edits, even tattoos. In the comments, women wrote paragraphs about reclaiming peace after betrayal, citing Rashida's walk-away moment as inspiration. By contrast, Kirk's socials went silent again. His team released a short statement to a gossip blog denying manipulation, but by then, the audience had moved on. The redemption arc that production once protected had collapsed in public. The villain, the victim, and the vixen had blurred into real people. And for the first time, viewers weren't asking who won. They were asking who healed. As days passed, the cameras moved on to the next scandal. But the Frost Triangle became a case study, a warning of what happens when reality TV forgets its reality. Jasmine deleted most of her old posts. Rashida doubled down on business content. Kirk, sources said, started therapy quietly, and just like that, the saga that began with whispers ended with silence, 3 people exiting in 3 very different ways: denial, reflection, and freedom. Still, the conversation didn't die. It evolved. Podcasts dissected, manufactured. Villainy. Think pieces debated whether the audience had become complicit in emotional exploitation. And amid that reflection came the closing question, the one Jasmine herself had posed months earlier in a caption most people had ignored. What does accountability look like when the cameras stop rolling? That question lingered. It challenged everyone watching, not just the cast. Because beyond the scandal, beyond the edits, beyond the trending clips, there was a deeper story about truth, timing, and the cost of turning pain into content. So as the music fades and the lights dim on this chapter, one truth remains unshaken. The end of the Frost saga wasn't about who was right. It was about who refused to keep performing. And in that refusal, the story found its real ending. Not in chaos, but in quiet clarity.